In the apostolic and prophetic movement, we deconstructed the five-fold ministry. And we did so because we felt like we had to. We had to extrapolate from those 5 gifts, specifically the gift of apostle and prophet, to examine it. It's kind of like tearing down a motor to find its working parts so you can understand how it functions. And so in that deconstruction, we took prophets and we tried to figure out exactly what is a prophet. How do prophets function? What does it look like in a local church? Well, we did the same with apostles. We looked at that part and saw how it interacted with the other pieces, understood what it is, what its function is, and then we laid out all the pieces and parts of this working mechanism to understand each part totally. But now it's time to reconstruct. It's time to reconstruct the five-fold ministry, understanding that all 5 of those gifts are equally important. It can't be understood as some kind of a hierarchy in the way that it functions, because Paul's examination of five-fold ministry was only for the purpose of aligning the saints. So the purpose of the five-fold ministry is found in this equipping or aligning or discipling of the saints. What we have done in the deconstruction, in the examination, in the understanding of each of these five-fold parts is perhaps forgotten that it needs reassembled, reconstructed for a greater purpose. The purpose of apostles, the purpose of prophets, the purpose of evangelists and pastors and teachers is not to create a hierarchy, not to create some kind of position that puts people in the spotlight. But the purpose of the fivefold ministry is all about the saints. It's not even about those 5 gifts. It's about the saints. And so if we were going to map things out, perhaps in a graphic, it may look something like this. Da Vinci's model of a human being. And we see that the apostle has a part to play. And that part is the apostle says, go. The apostle says, here's how you go, and here's why you go, and here's what you do when you go. The apostle provides a strategic plan so that saints understand their purpose in their family, in the workplace, in their life. But then the prophet says, hear. And certainly the prophet helps us hear the word of the Lord. But the prophet also helps us to hear the cry of humanity. The prophet helps us to hear what the culture is saying to us. The evangelist has an equally important part to play because the evangelist is the one that says speak, to bring the message, to herald the message, the good news, the gospel, how to speak, why to speak, when to speak, and maybe when not to speak. But it's not just the apostle, prophet, and evangelist that's needed. We need pastors because the pastor teaches people how to love. The pastor gives us the motivation to do everything that we do because we love God and we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So the pastor plays an equally as important role as the evangelist, the prophet, and the apostle. But what about the teacher? This isn't some kind of hierarchy. It's not like the teachers are the last on the list. These are 5 equal parts. And the teacher says, think. The teacher teaches us how to think, why to think, what to think, the process of thinking, the process of logic, and processing information in a way that's practical. And so if we were to look at the fivefold ministry gifts, we might see them like this, as all equally important in bringing their gifts to bear for the sake of the saints. We must equip the saints. We must align them. We must disciple people because it's all about the saints. It's not about the five-fold ministry. And so, yes, by necessity, perhaps we've had to deconstruct the five-fold ministry to examine, to understand it. But now is the time that the church needs to reassemble and reconstruct all five gifts equally together for the purpose of aligning the saints, discipling people, and bringing the church into a greater season.